for this session today. We will be welcoming Jitesh, who is an entrepreneur in residence with the Circle Incubation, as well as Sarat Sharma and Sandhya Gupta, who are founders of Avishkar, which is a nonprofit that works in Palampur and has been spearheading the movement towards inspiring, integrating STEM learning and what it can do for children across the country. I personally know of so many educators who are fantastic educators in and of themselves, who are then themselves inspired by the work being done at Avishkar. Very excited to welcome Sandhya ji and Sarat ji to the session today, and Jitesh, of course, who is himself building a STEM-focused, STEM-oriented curriculum right now and hopes to build a school in Bangalore soon. Yes, if you have any questions at all, please add your questions in the Q&A section. And we will be taking them on, and some we will invite to answer later on during the conversation. And we might even ask you to come online and ask your question yourself. So please be adding your questions throughout the time. With that, I do want to hand it over to Jitesh, who will be holding the conversation with Sarji and Sandhya today. Jitesh.
Thank you, Harsha. Welcome everyone. We are just going to wait for a quick minute for Sarit sir to join, and then we will get started. Is that okay, Harsha?
Yes, sure.
We'll just wait for a quick minute.
Perhaps till then, Jitesh, you could talk about yourself, your journey, and how you found yourself here today.
Absolutely. So I started my journey in education about 7 years ago in a professional capacity. Post my graduation, okay, Sarit is already here. I don't see him on the panel, but okay. Wonderful. So I started my journey as an educator about 7 years ago when I started working in one of the edtechs that was upcoming at 2016, and I stayed in the space as an edtech educator, STEM educator in edtech space for about 7 years, working for different companies, developing curriculum, in thought-inspiring assessments and teacher training programs. But last year, I came across the Circle Incubation Program, and in October, I left my last role and I joined the Circle Incubation to start a STEM-driven school of my own here in Bangalore. Currently, I am working towards prototyping said curriculum and developing it into much more detail and much more depth. And yeah, I'm hoping to launch the same said school in about 6 months to 18-month timeline. I'm not entirely certain on that, but yeah, that's the idea. I would love to welcome Sarit sir and Sandhya ma'am as well at this point. Both of them are entrepreneurs who have started Avishkar, which is one of the institutions that I look to for the work, the amazing work that they're doing. Can Harsha? Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So we'll just get started with a few questions for both of you, if that's okay. Awesome. So before we get into anything else, before we start discussing about STEM programs, I wanted to understand what made you decide that you wanted to create the work and get into the work that you are currently doing. I will start with Sandhya ma'am, if that's okay.
So we moved to India, and at that time, I was building another institute about and policy, but our daughter was very young. So we started we registered her in the local government school, which was with walking distance. And both of us, actually 3 of us, after lunch, we would go with her to this government school, and we just to be around children, see what they are doing. And what we saw was what was written in a report was in these schools. We would work with children, and we would share what we knew. We would play with them. We would do a little bit math and also language. And we realized that these kids want to learn, have capacity to learn, but they just need some more investment, which we were providing. And very soon we realized that it actually is not rocket science. It is possible. And the more we looked into ourselves, we realized that we love mathematics and science because that is what our background, and actually that is what we thought we knew. So we said, we love it. What is it that we can do that our children also fall in love with these subjects? This was like this is what was at the core of starting to work with more students, which resulted in working with more teachers, more schools, more organizations. And that is the journey that brought us here. So in short, this is what I would like to say.
Sir, would you like to add anything on to that?
I guess we are electrical engineers by professional training. So math and science comes naturally to us. I can't say that I always loved math and science, but somewhere along the way, we fell in love with that. And I would like more people to love math and science and enjoy math and science just the way you enjoy going to a good movie, listening to good music, reading a good book. It's exactly same, not different.
I agree. I resonate with quite a lot of what you have just said, that learning maths and science has become a sort of a very difficult topic of a lot of parents and of a lot of students. And whenever maths as a subject is brought up, it either strikes fear or boredom among the eyes of the student. And if we are able to make that switch happen where students fall in love with those subjects, it would, I think, do a great deal of create a great deal of difference for not just their lives but also society. I would like to say, Chandra. Yeah. Okay. I would love to jump into some of the questions which I'm really interested in asking about. So you have been working with students for quite a bit now, and you have worked with quite a lot of teachers as well as school leadership. So how there is a balance between delivering content and delivering lessons to the students and letting them be involved and letting their curiosity be flourishing inside a classroom. Where do you think that natural curiosity, and how do you think that can be leveraged, if you may, to build those necessary skills for maths and science in a student's brain or in a student's academic journey? I think we can start with Sarit. Sir is already unmuted.
Oh, okay. So I really think human beings are curious beings. So I don't think we have to make our kids or students curious. At least my belief is that it's a wrong notion. All we have to do is not let it die. Where most parents by the age of, I think, 4 or 5, they sort of get pestered by their own kids for everything. They are asking why, right? So yes, kids are curious because they are new to this world, and there are so many new things for them to see. And so they ask. But when they come to the school, suddenly they become non-curious and we have to make them curious, right? The switch just happens. So I don't think we have to make the kids curious. We just have to make sure that we create an atmosphere where their natural curiosity is maintained. You know, when before first grade, I think the kids are asking questions.
Yeah.
As soon as they enter the school, it is the teacher who is asking questions, and that also in exams.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole world switches.
Yeah. So we are in agreement that the natural curiosity is a great mover for students learning. What I have maybe phrased it poorly is that how do we utilize that curiosity? Because curiosity is very divergent, right? It goes in many, many directions at the same time. So inside a classroom with the limited time that a teacher has and the extensive curriculum that a teacher has, how do we use that curiosity that a student brings to enhance their learning environment as well within those restrictions that we have put on the classroom setting as a society, let's say.
All the why questions. First, there should be space to ask questions fearlessly, without being ridiculed, right? I don't think we have that space today. We are always looking for the right answers. We don't even know how to appreciate a good question.
Yeah.
And sometimes, rather than even sometimes, most of the times, a teacher's job should be to respect the question, accept the question, maybe help rephrase the question. Because sometimes our kids may not have the vocabulary. So you have to sort of go to and fro and make sure that you have understood what they are exactly asking, right? And those are the right words. And then you can throw the question back to the classroom. That, hey, what does everybody else think? Does anybody else has a similar question in their mind? Right? So it is not like, and our instinct as a teacher is probably to give the answer. Because our system is so focused on the right answer.
Absolutely.
That we get lost and we get lost and not even see what the process is. You may or may not arrive at the answer. But so what? Why can't we explore the question and the answer space? Right?
Absolutely.
So to me, respecting the questions and how you deal with the question for the teacher, that is one of the most important things to keep the curiosity going. And I want to see a classroom where not teachers are asking the questions, but students are asking the questions. And I'm going to put this as a metric. How many students ask the question? And totally how many questions were asked in the classroom? I'm going to make metrics based on this actually to judge a classroom.
And I know the way current teachers are, the keepers right answers. We ask questions, our students solve them, and then we tell them correct or not. So we don't have the practice of encouraging that curiosity or creating that open spaces in classroom, open and safe spaces where kids can feel confident in asking a question and being respected for it. Because raising that hand in classroom is an act of bravery in current Indian classrooms. So what is it we as teachers can do, that once a hand was raised, even if the answer was correct or incorrect, in the next classroom, that student feels more empowered to raise it again. And for that, I think we at Avishkar, to encourage this curiosity specifically, and to be able to see that different people think differently, we have what we call a charcha. It is not, and because our teachers do not have this kind of practice, so what we do is don't convert this whole half an hour, 45-minute or 1 hour class into a charcha space, but maybe 5 to 7 minutes. Try it, ask that question where students are able to respond by showing making their thinking visible, and being able to see that that's in the same course, for the same question, different students think differently. And in mathematics and science, especially in maths, there is no democracy in mathematics. 2 + 3 is always going to be 5. But the way you arrive at the answer could be different. And how can we bring that difference, show that different ways of solving the same problem is possible? That happens. And the more we do it, we see that the students start to see. They become curious. How are the others going to solve it? And that creativity also comes out. So, but this is a practice our teachers need, which I think currently is kind of non-existent.
I would love to dig a little deeper on that one. When we allow these, let's say, different pathways that a brain has for different students to come to the same conclusion, to come to the same solution, do you think that freedom, not as in the freedom in itself, but because of the expression that this inside the classroom that happens, do you think that helps other students to build like multiple ways of thinking about the same problem? Do you think that is that something that you have observed as a differentiator over the, let's say, course of 6 months or a year in the students that you have taught?
So because my mic is on, I'm going to go first. So this we do a lot in mathematics. So forget about a year. I see this within a 5-day camp. First day, we will do a charcha. Suppose I did how much is 27 plus 36? Some will do 27 plus 30 plus 6. Somebody will do 20 plus 30 plus 7 plus 6. Somebody will make 27 into 30 plus 36 minus 3. So the many ways different kids will do it. And we as facilitators will just draw it on the board to show that how make one's thinking visible to the whole classroom. So very soon, within a class, it would happen. Because we are drawing everybody's answer, the kids would start to think, is there another way I can do it? Is there another way? Because now it becomes like a puzzle. And by second or third day, they would start saying that, okay, I could do it in 3 different ways. I could do it in 4 different ways. So that joy you can notice. And none of the answer is of the facilitator. Every answer is that is coming from the students. It may be teachers, whoever is the participant. And they let their creativity run wild. So I would say it just does not take a year. You start seeing it within a week.
That I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I'm just thinking that, like, is there a persistent effect, or was there a short term? Because in the short term, students think, okay, this topic, my different solutions are being appreciated. Maybe next topic they might not be. Or is it that, okay, I'm doing this for math, for addition, I'm also going to do this for subtraction, I'm also going to apply this for science? Is that the effect that you're observing, or is it just, okay, I'm going to stick with addition because addition was once appreciated? Or I'm just figuring out that. So
it is not, it has nothing to, I mean, once that curiosity gets perked up, no, it has nothing to do with appreciation. Everybody loves a good puzzle, and that sense of accomplishment is just amazing. So, I mean, may start with, and it's the creativity of the teacher as to what problem they are presenting.
Yeah.
And it can start with number sense. It can go up till probability or quadratic equation or whatever you want to do. And I would say, Sarit, would you want to comment something about science on that?
I think I'm fine for now. I'm still thinking.
Okay. Yeah, I got the idea. I just understood. One question which I think we have already covered to a certain extent is that because there is quite a lot of fear around the subjects of maths and science, I wanted to discuss as to how do we tackle that, but I think we have kind of already touched base quite a bit on that. But in case either of you or both of you have some points that you want to add on to that, I would really appreciate that too.
I'm just going to add that actually there is no inherent fear of math or fear of science.
Yep.
It is something our school system has created. And we need to really reflect on ourselves that what is it that we are doing that is creating this fear? Right? And I mean, there are many, many things that come to mind. And one big thing is rewarding the right answer. So when students are answering questions, actually they are looking at the teacher's face to see the expressions, and sometimes they will change their answer depending on the expressions that you have. Because all they want to do is actually give you the right answer and please you. They are not expressing themselves. It is not like they are telling what they think. Let it be right, let it be wrong, let it be ambiguous, let it be not even complete, let it be incomplete, doesn't matter, right? You just say what you think. And if you don't know, say, I don't know. To be able to say, I don't know. I have a few thoughts on this, but I don't clearly understand this. To be able to say that. We haven't even created the proper vocabulary, the phrases and the clauses, which they can use to actually communicate in a very, what should I say, clearly. To be able to say what they really feel. Because we all feel those things. But our system is very binary, right or wrong.
Yeah.
You get rewarded for the right answer and then you get penalized for the wrong one. So you always get penalized. There's so much of penalizing part in our system. It comes as sometimes as ridicule, sometimes it comes as a grading. It comes in so many forms, but all of this is sort of really ridicule.
Yeah.
In fact, in Avishkar, we actually talk a lot about being, the Hindi word for it would be tatast. The closest translation would be probably equanimous or having a poker face. That when some student is answering, by my face, they should not be able to tell that my answer is correct or incorrect. If you say 27 plus 35 is 63, I am just going to ask you, how do you know? Or what was the process?
Yeah.
With continuous practice, making them, my students believe that process is more important than the answer, that I really don't care for the answer. I want to hear from you. How did you arrive at it?
And even if the answer is wrong, and you ask them, how did you come to the answer? I think they will catch on their own mistake.
Yeah. Yep. I agree on that one. So I think we are on the same page that if you like, I'm a very strong believer that if I say I don't know enough number of times inside the classroom myself, that allows my students a lot of freedom to say I don't know in their own classroom, in their own capacity. Obviously, it's heavily discouraged in our education system, both by parents as well as the teachers in general. But if the teacher is taking the initiative, is going into the classroom saying, yeah, I don't know, it's okay if I don't know, and you allow the student to sit in that okay, not everything can be known by everyone, so it gives them a confidence that okay, I can make a mistake or I cannot know an answer, and I will not be penalized for that. So I think I really like that thought process. So
Actually, not only that, I think the way the current Indian system is, it's very important for us, we as teachers, to intentionally make mistakes.
Yeah.
So that it becomes okay with our students that we are humans, we make mistakes. Making mistakes is a process of learning. I'm learning math and science, so I am going to make mistakes. It's just like when I learned to walk, I fell so many times. But right
And
now,
also we'll find out how many kids are sleeping.
Yes.
So, but mistakes are highly discouraged. You are penalized for making mistakes.
Yeah. I have a I have a very similar process as Sarit says that when I want to see how many of what percentage of my class is actually paying attention, I will make a very simple arithmetic error on the board by purpose, just to see how many are awake as he got it. But okay. So a lot has been there's been a lot of conversation around developing critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, this skill, that skill. What I want to understand is when we allow students to be curious, make mistakes, and learn by applying the concepts that they are seeing. What I have observed is that their attitude towards life in general takes a small angular displacement, right? That it just goes in a slightly different direction. That okay, I want to think about this problem statement from this problem in scientific context like this. I'm going to think about my life problem statement slightly differently. So, have you observed that character deviation among students when you have allowed this freedom, allowed this hands-on learning approach inside your classrooms?
I didn't quite follow you.
Didn't quite. Okay. So what I have observed in my classrooms is that when I have allowed my students quite a lot of freedom inside the classroom as to behave as if you are allowed to do whatever you want, but also learn at the same time. So what I've seen is that when they go out of the classroom, even their behaviors in person interactions have switched around, and they have started behaving differently with each other, approaching each other in different ways. Have you also observed something along those lines in your own classes?
See, we don't run a school per se, but we do a lot of camps for the kids, and they are mostly like a week long. And we can easily say that maybe 1 or 2 days, and third day onwards, the vocabulary the kids are using during the lunch time or dinner time or tea time changes. They are actually challenging each other now. For everything they ask, how the hell do you know? They pick it up very quickly. They pick up these nuances very, very quickly. Kids are very fast learners. They are like a sponge. They absorb all your behavior and all your nuances, especially if they respect you.
Yep.
If you have caught their imagination somehow, then whatever you do will be copied immediately. Yes, it does go outside the classroom. That's my take.
When the act whatever we do, if the way we even vote, it's currently not driven by logic and reason. And mathematics and science are, I think, the easiest way to learn logic and reason. So what we build here is what is going to create responsible citizens of tomorrow. And these slow shifts, so we are huge on justification. So whatever is your answer, you always have to justify. So this justification you see built. So our fellows go and teach in schools. So if you're sitting even in an Avishkar staff room, and people hear our team members discussing, almost always people will be forcing you to justify. And the same thing goes in classroom also.
Yeah, I love the reasoning behind and justification process as well. It's one of the favorite things for me to do in a classroom, as to whenever a student says that I did not understand this, even my point is, okay, let me justify why I'm thinking the way I'm thinking. So that the students, whenever they answer as well, if somebody says, sir, no, I don't have the same answer, I'll ask them to justify it to each other, not to me. I'm not the stakeholder here. You are to each other. You're responsible to each other. So one of the problems which I have heard on a very regular basis from teachers, school leaders, after school spaces, is that, you know, if we go and try to create something which, if we try to create a classroom environment which is inquisitive, which promotes hands-on learning, what ends up happening is that the time consumed is very high, right? And we don't have that much time with the students. We have very limited time, and we want them to learn the most that we can. I'm not a big supporter of that statement, but I would love to understand what your thoughts are, and how do you approach this attitude that, you know, is very commonly found in our educators today.
You know, I strongly believe that our job is to help our students learn how to learn. I think our students should get to decide what they want to learn. And all those different content spaces that we have, like English, Hindi, math, science, social science, and whatever else, right? In all these spaces, if we were continuously working on how to learn, the problem wouldn't be so bad. I have a daughter. We have a daughter who has been a self-learner. She did not go to school to learn. She learned on her own. And all these are books, you know. It does not take more than 3 months to finish. So content in whatever is there in every classroom, I've seen NCERT and Cambridge and some other content. So content does not take time. It's how do we, our job is to build confidence in our children that they can learn. But somehow we totally get more interested in the content. I have to finish the content. They learned or not is not the problem. So, and we start doing from first grade. So this is very difficult, you know, the way we are approaching the problem. So as teachers, that's where the problem is. And next time, I mean, at 9th grade, if my students don't know how to multiply, how am I going to teach quadratic equation? So the content is not finished, is not the problem. My student is not able to understand the content because the previous knowledge is missing, is the problem.
Yeah.
So that is something that needs to be solved. So if we invested most of our energy at the primary to make our students feel confident that they can learn. And you know, the problem is at multiple levels. The way the books are written, the syllabus is written, it is not written for the student to understand. It is written like a short teacher guide.
Yeah.
So the book is written in, even if you can read, so problem is at reading level also, even if you can read, you can't understand on your own. Because maybe our limitation has been that the book has to be within 50 rupees or whatever be the limitation. The book is not for the student, it's for the teacher. And the teacher generally I would say in a school, many a times does not teach the chapter, but goes to the last page and start doing the problems. They have their own challenges. I totally get it.
Yeah.
But this way it will take much longer to solve the problem. So we as community really need to help work with our teachers, because they are the change agents. So if we can support them, then we are actually truly supporting the school.
So just to add a layer before I get Sarit's thought on this, add a layer to the question. Do you think there are parts of the curriculum which currently NCERT or Cambridge or ICSE have defined that are largely irrelevant to the students' overall learning journey, and maybe we can remove them entirely from the syllabus?
But there are a lot of things which need to be added too. So revising the curriculum is a continuous process. I mean, how can you say that I designed the system in 1960 and it's going to be valid forever? No, impossible. Right? Why can't I say that all my students coming out of my high school should know how to ride a bicycle? Why is it missing from my syllabus? I want to know that. Or a two-wheeler. Why are life skills missing? Right? I mean, you're talking about removing things, and I'm talking about adding things. Actually. But yes, you are right. There are a lot of things which can be and probably need to be removed, but there are a lot of things which need to be added. Let's not just talk about reducing the load, so to say. That's not, it's almost like saying lowering the bar. Yeah, everybody can become a rich person if you keep lowering the poverty line. Yeah, that's easy. That's easily done, right? So that shouldn't be the goal. We should really think that, what is it exactly we want? Let's say a 10th grader coming out. What skills do you think he should have before? Because, what skills do we want? He should be able to operate his bank account. So why don't we teach financial literacy? Why is it missing? Right? Those are the life skills my students really need. In addition to doing calculus. And calculus may be one of the first things that can be easily removed. Because most students, even if they do science and math, will not actually end up using calculus. Only those who go into research and design will end up using it. So yeah, this is an ongoing, this should be an ongoing debate as to what needs to be added and what needs to be changed.
And the way the books are written, specifically in science and maths also, but mostly in science, it is about knowing the jargons. You should know the word photosynthesis. You should know the word molecule. You should know. I mean, there are different words. You may need to know the word ecosystem, but so the whole book is just full of this word, this word, this word, this word. But what does it mean? Why? That is not in the syllabus. I mean, so many times I've seen that the like element, the word is there, but why am I learning this? How is it connected? I mean, so many times people say algebra should be removed. But algebra is the study of patterns. And we humans are pattern seekers. So we continuously see patterns around them. But we don't teach it like this. We teach it like, oh, you have to solve for X. I mean, why is X after my life? But unless I can see its relevance, what fun would it be? So again, coming back to, we need to build this capacity in our teachers, in our curriculum, so that our students can see the relevance, which again is currently missing.
I was
Uh,
thinking that even the chapters or the topics that we teach, they should have a very sensible title. The title should not be like trigonometry, because I don't know trigonometry. So if I was looking for something that trigonometry has to offer, how will I get there? Because I don't know trigonometry. So you're making the problem more difficult, right? You might as well say that, okay, let's study triangles.
Hmm.
And at the end, you can say, okay, by the way, this study of triangles is called trigonometry. Fine. Right? Even and that question of asking, of justification, like we'll say, okay, what is the capital of India? So that's one way to answer is Delhi. So that is answering the what. But my next question would be why? Why is Delhi the capital of India? Right? And then the whole thing will start unraveling. So it's not limited to science and math. This asking the question of why, will bring out so many things. I mean, my Google can answer a question of what faster than anybody else.
Yeah.
So there's no need for me to do it.
I am in like deep agreement with you, because the way I have really started appreciating maths and science over the last 10 odd years or so is primarily by asking the question why. Why is this of any relevance to my students? Why is it of relevance for me to even teach this? Even if it is part of the syllabus, why should a student want to learn this or need to learn this? Even if they are becoming engineers, not every engineer is going to do modern physics in class 11, study class 11, 12 modern physics. Not every engineer is going to work towards particle physics in the future. So what's the point? But this brings me to a very interesting question, which is when so I'm just building off of what Sandhya I'm finished with, is that you said that we need to build this capacity in the teachers to bring the context, bring the reasoning behind learning for their students. I think we can agree a little bit that when we are teaching a standardized curriculum, which we are essentially doing across the country at this point, we can take Saritzer's cue and build it on the concepts, and we can integrate it into the default syllabus that, okay, this is the context of the concept that you're learning. This is the hands-on approach. This is the application that you see in the world, and so on and so forth. Do you think a curriculum which uses that method of teaching, that builds up the context as to why is this relevant to you, then shows you the implementation in the real world, then shows you how you can apply this to your real life, do you think that kind of a development in the curriculum is a better support, or is it capacity building for the teachers better support going forward?
So I'm just trying to understand the question here. So are you saying that should we change the curriculum, or should we change the teaching style? Is that?
Yeah, that's what I'm actually asking you, that is it better to train the teachers to develop their teaching style towards this method, or is it that we provide that context for the teacher so that when the teacher actually browses the book, gets all the information which is requisite, which might be currently missing in some areas, so that they can just directly deliver it and don't need to come with subject expertise inside the classroom, right?
That means the textbooks and the teacher guide needs to be separate.
Okay.
I mean, you can't embed. I mean, who is the textbook meant for? That should be very clear. If it is meant for student, then it will be student-like. Right? The artwork will be different. The size of the book will be different. The font will be different. But if it is meant for teacher, then it will be a different game. So I'm still struggling with your question, right?
Yeah. phrasing it very well. Let me just
Okay.
So the way I understood it, let me address that. So we build book the students that of the book that students get, that this is what they have to study. So they an ideal book has pretty pictures, very attractive. Our students are working with that book. And in an ideal world, there is a teacher handbook for it. For every chapter, there is a handbook that's kind of telling them how to, what are the key ideas and how it can be taken to classroom, and what are the key concepts that the student is working and why this has been chosen this way. But so that it's like, if it's a movie, then that is the script. But the hero or heroine of the movie is the teacher, right? So what Shah Rukh Khan can do, Amir Khan probably cannot do. Different people do different things. And so they have a style.
correct. So I would want the teacher to bring their style, their personality into the classroom. I just would want that, okay, says, I'll just take Sarit sir's example, right? That why are you learning trigonometry? What's the point? Right? Might as well just learn about triangles, but then why are you learning triangles? And you keep going back. So instead of building on that, just go and say, okay, we are going to learn trigonometry because it is relevant for you to understand, say, build construction in the future, or building bridges in the future, or XYZ future applications that you're going to come up with. So if you ever have thought about doing that in your life, maybe this is something that you might want to pay for deeper attention into. So do you think something along those lines, which also shows them the application? Okay, then let's say when Howrah Bridge was being built, they used basic trigonometry, which you are currently learning in the same way, to build that bridge. And we bring in those contextualized examples into the student's life just to build that relevance for them. And I'm not sure if this will require segregated textbooks, but the flavor the teacher wants to bring in can be different, but this is content, right? Again, we are still in the content world. We haven't taken it to the class. So I'm just wondering if we should tailor the content more so that the teacher is able to deliver it without having to do a bunch of pre-existing research and going deeper and deeper into the concept on their own. That's what I want to understand.
So I would, the way I look at a teacher is, the teacher is the role model student of the class. So the more teacher is a student first, a student of learning first. And I am role modeling for my students what to me is an ideal, what an ideal student behaves like, looks like, reads like, studies like, learns like, researches like. So they need support, and this pedagogical support or content support would be valuable. But the teacher always remains a learner.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So I will never take it away from the teacher that you don't need to do this.
Yeah. So on top of everything, the teacher brings in their own flavor, personality, and the type of class they want to emulate. They want students to emulate. Sarit sir, do you want to add anything, or is this?
Yeah, I think I sort of understand now what you were trying to say. So there are two ways of going about it. One is that these are the things that need to be taught, and somehow I am going to make them seem relevant. That means I'm going to tell you that today we are going to learn the prime numbers, and I'm going to tell you why we need to learn prime numbers and how they will affect your life and things like that, right? The other is that the need also evolves from our older discussion. That we're talking about something, and that opens up many areas, and then we say, okay, now we will pick up one of these areas and move ahead, right? So there you are not necessarily picking up a topic out of the blue. and trying to make it contextual and justify that why we need to learn it, right? So ideally speaking, things should evolve, but you can't always do that. It won't always work, right? There are time constraints, and some topics may be totally sort of disconnected, or
Yeah.
at least, if you did want to connect them, then the amount of time needed may be really long to connect them. So yes, I mean, ideally speaking, yes, I would like that we just explore the world around us, and we use mathematics as a tool, as a language, and we develop that language also as we go along. And also we try to understand different aspects of different things, and one thing leads to the other. That would be the ideal situation, but I don't think that will always be possible.
And you were that teacher handbook, what we were talking about, that's a support. Like EdTech is a support, but the teacher is the hero or the heroine. They are the ones going to develop, so they need to know. In my world, I am never bypassing the teacher. For us, teacher is the change agent.
Yeah, agreed completely. I think we will need to quickly move to question and answer stage because quite a lot of questions have come up. So we'll just move to that if that's okay. Okay. All right. We will start with Arsha. You want to invite Pranav?
Sure. So first of all, as I was going through the question answers, Sanjay, thank you so much for this discussion. I think it's really bringing out, as you said, lots of questions and curiosity from our participants. The themes, a lot of them are how to get started. I think school leaders are asking that, teachers are asking that, people are asking that about how to get started at home also. Those are the general themes. Let's invite Pranav. Pranav, if you're still with us, we'd love to have you here so that you could ask your question.
I think seems to have left the meeting.
Okay. So then, well, Pranav's question was interesting. He said, how do we invest students in fairly abstract concepts of math and science, which are difficult to connect to daily life?
So up till 10th grade, I don't think that we teach anything in mathematics or science that cannot be visualized. This is a homework we as teachers need to do, because anything in mathematics and science up till 10th grade and even higher can be made visual and we can see around our daily life. Like one of these examples, every action has equal and opposite. I mean, I've just heard it so many times, and next to it would be a rocket.
Yeah.
I mean, we walk because of it. So it's right there. You don't have to fly in a space.
Yeah, so I can't agree more on that. Majority, I'm fairly certain that I've gone over the syllabus up to class 10, and at least 90 to 95% of the concepts which are covered in at least NCERT syllabus are very, very easy to demonstrate, to visualize, and pick out examples which students encounter on an everyday basis. Sarit sir, if any thoughts to add on that?
As far as science is concerned, it is trying to understand the world around us. So I cannot see anything which would be more relevant than that. Which part of that is irrelevant? I'm still wondering. If somebody thinks that there is any irrelevant part, then I'm like, oh, then it must not be from the world around me, right?
Science is understanding the world around us, and mathematics is the language that tells tries to express it.
Absolutely. In fact, today Amina and I were having a discussion about how I am a Bharatanatyam dancer and I equate dance with math because dance is math, and I know that because my teacher was also a mathematician. So she would always say, "Dance is math. It's just different permutations." So absolutely, kind of agree with that. It is math is the world around. It's the language. Um,
I've been told
Yeah.
that so is music.
so is music.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think before we move on to other questions, I've been really wondering about because you have such an emphasis on hands-on learning. And I saw some examples here and there when I was reading about you, but since we're talking about visualizing and demonstrating things, could you maybe give me an example of an hands-on learning that you maybe created or designed for a math concept or a scientific concept, something like that?
You want me to go?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So do you have any object in front of you? All of us do, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that object can be broken? Yes?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Can those pieces be further broken?
Yes.
Are there any objects around you which cannot be broken?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so. So all objects can be broken, and when they break, we call them parts. Right? And we can break them further, they become even smaller, and then we can break them further, and then instead of parts, we start calling them particles. Okay? So what has happened is that every object can be broken down into particles. Or there's another way to look at it. That means every object is made up of particles. Yeah, this is known as the particle theory of matter. Right? So we are already on our way to doing science. Now I'm going to study those particles. What are their behaviors? What are their properties? And can their behavior tell me something about the larger behavior, or the larger behavior about the particles, and the other way around, right? What happens if those particles are of the same shape? What would my object look like? What about if they are of different shapes? Then what would happen?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about if those particles are bouncing around? Then what happens? Right? It's given a lot of names: kinetic theory of matter, particle theory of matter, molecular theory of matter. They're all different names given to this idea, right? But we're already, yeah. So more than hands-on, we are more like minds-on.
Okay. That's great. I love that. I'd be using that. We can move on to the next question.
Let's invite Anand, who has his hands raised for a while.
Okay. I'll just...
Oh, Anna.
Hey. Hello to all three of you. I think basically I had my hand raised for, I think, trying to clarify on what Jitesh was trying to say, I think, about the textbook thing, right? I'm going to give it a shot, Jitesh. If it makes sense, tell me if it is. Else it's still a conversation. I think what Jitesh was trying to say is that, is it at least what I understood was, is it, so we have this progression that Sarajit was talking about, right? That I study something, I study the why behind it, I study the application. Can this very same thing be laid down as the text? And in a way, it connects with what you were saying, Sandhyaji. It's that we treat the teacher as a student, while being aware of the fact that the teacher has got a longer exposure to that same subject, right? So given that the material is the same, the teacher and the student are sort of dealing with the same material, but the teacher is able to bring something more to the material than the student does. So I have a textbook which is organized in the way we say a teacher should teach, but flipping it around, it's in the way a student must learn. right? And the teacher is able to riff off that by adding bits of their style, etc. So it's the same content. We don't, as it, you could of course also have two separate pieces, one for the student and one for the teacher. But if you're saying the both of them are essentially students, would it make sense that the text itself is laid in such a manner and progresses in such a manner that you as the teacher and I as the student both look at it, but you are able to do a little more while modeling the student behavior as well? Does that make sense? Is that what you were trying to say, Jitesh?
Yeah.
Hello, Anand.
Hey. Long time.
Yeah, a long time. So, I'm a big believer of students discovering the concept.
Yes.
And I think our job as teachers is to not give away the answer,
Yes.
but so the learning of this concepts is like a river flowing, but we are asking those guiding questions so that we can keep the flow of the river purposefully towards where we want to reach.
Yes.
So we are expert as teachers. Our expertise is asking that guiding question without giving away the answer and create that sense of discovery. Because even in teachers, when we discover it, that understanding is deeper. But if somebody just tell me, okay, this is negative, this is positive, and this is how you add, then you are all you try to memorize, and that understanding doesn't happen.
Agreed. And I think Jitesh's question, I was just trying to clarify, see if that can make sense, is can the text do this in an anticipatory manner? So like the same discovery, let's take integers, or you take even optics or particle physics, whatever it is. You start with a context or a very common phenomenon that everyone would have observed, and then maybe the text is asking things. Maybe it's a dialogue that is captured there, sort of like maybe it's like a graphic novel or whatever it is. But there is a question that is being asked there, and both the teacher and the student are exploring it together, but the teacher being sort of the meta orchestrator of sorts, because they have that extra thing. So while one of those questions could get answered or explored, the teacher could ask another. But the teacher now, because of this text, is being made aware of this process of approaching the subject, right? Versus, so what you're trying to say is that you're cueing the teacher to the process that should be used, versus having to have gone through a capacity building exercise where the teacher is taught this and might or might not remember it when they're actually executing the lesson. Is that sort of where you're going with this whole thing? Because I heard you comparing capacity building with the text being the guiding force. So I just thought that's what I want.
Yeah. So removing the onus of regular trainings overly involved after school hours, teachers are anyway quite burdened, as we all know, right? And on a general rule, teacher works more hours than a very high-paying Google executive does in India and abroad. So I'm just trying to remove the onus of the requirement for research, the requirement for knowledge building, the capacity building, the inquisitive learning. They have to remember grade contents of 4 different grade levels in depth. That is about 45 to 64 chapters that they have to remember. And sure, there's quite a lot of overlap, and they cannot make the mistake of teaching something which is not in this. So I'm just trying to remove the onus. I'm just trying to figure out if we remove the onus of that knowledge from the student, from the teacher, and hand it to them inside, let's say, a textbook or an AV media, do you think that would make it easier for them to operate within the classroom and then add their personality on top? That was the question. I think we have covered it well enough, and thank you so much, Anand, for clarifying that. I have a few questions here that I'm really intrigued by, so I'm just gonna ask you those. Monica is Monica online still? Monica Dioppa. I'm rewriting the question. Amina, could you bring her on? Yeah. Thank you, Anand, once again. Monica, could you unmute and ask your question, please?
Hi, can you hear me? Oh, yes, my question was just like, this is my very first session with you guys. And my question was like, so I'm into a different sector altogether. It is just that I only have 2 years of experience. Like I finished my college and I started teaching in the college. I got the opportunity. So at that time, I found that students were like they always hide it and they couldn't ask questions. So I thought somewhere these kind of things happens from their homes from the beginning, right? They are not able to ask proper questions. So how these curiosity, as you said, you talked about it in the beginning of it, how these practices can be inculcated from the home, because as we say, charity begins from the home first, right? We have to fix ourselves first, then we can give anything to the world. So how that these practices can be brought together, what are the best practices that we can follow? Yeah, I may
That's a-
not. Yeah,
That's a difficult thing you are asking, that what practices I don't think we have any control over what goes on in the homes, right? We have the hope that if we make change in our schools, our students, when they become parents, they will behave different.
Exactly.
So at least to me, I see it like that, rather than wondering that how I can make a change in their homes today. That would be a difficult one for me.
Right, yeah.
So I'm going to answer this question as a parent. As to, as my daughter was growing up, what did I see? Like every other mother, I also thought that I gave birth to an Einstein. And so I thought she should just know everything. And I was all, I remember being all about a structure for 2 days, because my daughter was not going to a formal school to study. And very soon I realized that, okay, if I start putting that structure down, this child is not of the form that's going to end up being in a very good mother-child relationship. So rest of my life, I only worked on learning how to step out of her way in learning. So there were many questions. So she would come up with questions, and I don't remember ever answering her questions. Sometimes I did, but many a times I actually worked on. So I still remember she wanted to write some question. She was writing a story, and it was going to be set in Russia. So she asked me something. All I said was, and I think this I did for many questions, that why don't you try to find out, and I will also try to find out, and both of us will try to figure it out by this evening as to what I found and what I found. And I think, looking back, I think what got built in her was that belief that I can find my answers on my own. Not every time that she was successful, she probably failed many more than she was successful at. But I think for our family and for her, I think this really worked well. So it was never that you cannot use a knife. It was always, I'm going to show you how to use it safely. Now you decide to cut what you want to cut.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you so much for your question, Monica. I hope that answers. I think we can get Apurva, if you'd want to unmute yourself. Sorry, I'll just add them.
Hi, thanks Arshia for letting me speak. Hi Sarit, hi Sandhya. So lovely to see you both and hear you both. Well, I just wanted to say hi, really, but my question was, like having worked with the two of you, I know that a lot of what you do and your teaching styles come from your own curiosity and your own passion for the subject. But then I'm wondering, most of the teachers having gone through the same sort of the curiosity killing system, do they have the same curiosity and passion for the subject? How important is it for teachers to have that? And are there ways to cultivate and sustain that kind of curiosity in the teachers?
Yeah, and I think I'll just add to your question, because there are certain questions around teacher training, and there's one by Arjun, which is, how do you think teachers, especially school teachers, can be supported to make constructive changes while still being part of the existing system? Maybe we can address that.
So as of today, our whole system is geared to exams. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So they are the key. We teach for exams. And it is going to remain like that. So if I can tweak the exam, then I can tweak everything else. I mean, what I test for is what is being taught. Because today, as of today, we are testing for retention. How much can you recall? How much can you remember? How much can you retain? That is what we are testing for. And so our school system also stresses on that. Learn the right spelling, learn the right words, so that you can throw them out, right? So if we can change the exams, I think the rest of it will follow. I mean, there is no perfect recipe that this is what you need to do, right? We have all these coaching classes of quota, right? Why do they exist? Because they are serving a purpose. So, solutions will come, but they are all serving the exam. And if I tweak the exam, they will all have to change and fall in line. I don't have to do everything else.
And by exam, you mean just assessing, right? The way we assess students.
That is correct. Yeah, the board exams, the entrance exams. What are you assessing for? If you change that, the whole system will change.
Hi, Apurva. In addition to assessment, we can't expect every teacher to be a passionate teacher. If that is there, that is wonderful. But it's like in every organization, we can't expect every employee to be that passionate employee. So what is it we can do that even an average teacher is still able to do the job? And that is why I think teacher capacity building is extremely important. They are almost like that booster shot that should, if done correctly, that would give a booster shot to that curiosity and creativity.
Of the teacher or of the student?
The teacher, because they also need inspiration. Imagine going to my class and seeing out of 30, half of my children who should be able to do multiplication so that I can teach algebra are not able to do. That must be so difficult. So that we need to, and in all these things, among all these situations, how we can keep this motivation alive. And I think doing those teacher capacity building workshops, creating those learning circles in classroom, showing that vision of excellence are the supports we need to provide to our teachers. And there are so many things that we do in celebration of an employee. But there are, as Jitesh was just saying, that a teacher works much more than an employee of a Google company or somewhere. But the thing is, for so much hard work, there are not many recognitions or rewards that we give to our teachers. The whole NCF is written for teacher. मतलब इतना बड़ा दारोमदार है. There is so much responsibility on the teacher. So there needs to be so much support also. so that they feel that we are all in it together. So for me, that is why I think those support structures for the teacher are extremely important, so that even an average teacher can do.
Yeah, I asked because I really think, if the teacher is curious and passionate, then that transfers to the children easily and automatically. Then you don't have to do much. You don't have to find ways to cultivate curiosity in children and so on. So I think that's very important, but also the most difficult task.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we get to work in the system after the system was established, and we came in the middle, and we can't really clean the slate and start from the beginning. That choice is not there.
I actually had a question. There are several questions, Sandhya and Saritji, on the question board, which require very, very long responses. They're about tips on building and designing curriculum. How do you incorporate within the system, and all of these questions, which require actually a bit of inquiry from some of the participants here as well. Do you recommend, post this session, what are some resources that maybe they can look up to learn more on their own? Also, how can they learn more from Avishkar post this conversation?
Okay, so this is like an Avishkar pitch, huh?
Sure.
So we at Avishkar, we do a lot of work with students and teachers.
And
Lot
teachers.
of work with teachers, yeah. We do it in the form of online workshops, as well as in-person engagements that happened at Avishkar campus, or if the group is big enough, our team travels to the site also. So if there is any interest like that, do connect with us, do write to us, and we would love to work with you. There is nothing more important than a teacher and a student who are looking for ways, and we can kind of share what we have learned. Resources. We try to put, our website is still a continuous work in progress. We are trying to put a lot of material there, and not many things have come up on the site yet, but with time, we would be putting a lot of material there. So please watch out for it, and we will have things there. Would you like to add something here?
No, I think I'm fine.
If it's okay, if you're just looking for tips on how to build lesson plans, there is a wonderful website by an individual named Mr. Arvind Gupta, who designs toys for its students completely from trash, right? So he has a full glossary of toys which you can access. Something very similar also happens with Avishkar, where they use everyday items to build, build demonstrative representations of scientific and mathematical concept, but it's a much more aggregated setup. So you can, if you would like, you can take a look at that.
And yeah, one more thing. Those of you who are proficient in Hindi, Eklavya publishes a magazine called Sandarbh and Chakmak, which comes at very reasonable price. That is something you can look at. And if you're an organization, even Azim Premji comes up with some magazines, and that could be valuable. There is a magazine, I Wonder, that there is one for teacher pedagogy. Then there is one for at right angles.
At right angles, yeah, for mathematics.
Yeah. So those are all, and to organizations, they give it for free. They will send it to you, and a lot of PDF things are available online if they you go to their website.
And I think if anybody is even more interested than that, and then there is NSTA, which is the National Science Teachers Association, for North America. And also there is NCTM, which is the Math Teachers Association in North America. Very, very high quality organizations. Their journals, it's just amazing what they think of and what they are thinking of, the material they publish. And their websites too. Very, very, very useful. Very useful. I'm sure there are other countries and their websites can also be harnessed. I'm just, what comes to my mind is what these two are the big ones.
I think despite the fact that we do have several questions, it would be time for us to bring this to a close. So Jitesh, if any, you would like to close this up?
Yes. It was great to have this conversation with the two of you. I believe that if I'm able to build something along the lines of what you are built and what you have already built and what the impact and the work that you're doing, I will be very proud of myself. Yeah, I'm hoping that I am able to learn from you in the future, and hoping to have more of these fruitful interactions as well.
Thank you so much for this lovely session. All the participants, thank you so much for joining us. Really sorry we couldn't take all questions. I would like to compile all the questions and maybe send them along Sandhya and Sarith's way. And if we get answers, we'll definitely communicate. There are a bunch of links on chat, but if you reach out to me, I can also just send a copy of the chat if you want. And we can always, I'll be attaching these to the feedback forms we send out. So watch out for those. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And yeah, this has been great. And I hope you have a great rest of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.